This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 107 of Healthy Critters Radio on the Horse Radio Network. Healthy Critters Radio is brought to you by Biostar US. Find them online at biostarus.com.
On today's show, we share things you can do for your riding when you can't go to the barn, plus games you can play with your dog. Patapedia focuses on horses with head-shaking syndrome. In Critter Nutrition, we share terrific smoothie and juice recipes to keep you healthy. And in Coffee Clatch, we share our current playlists and songs to keep our minds and spirits up. Listen in. So I had the great pleasure this weekend of watching the new Pixar film Onward, which is on Disney Plus, the Disney streaming service. And being an ardent Pixar fan, I was totally charmed, enchanted, taken away to a new world of elves and pixies and dragons. And I highly, highly recommend it for the best kind of escapism. It's escapism with warm heart and good feelings and really profoundly important messages. And in the elf world, they used to be a world full of magic, and then they discovered electricity. And they transitioned to more of our current world where they have cell phones and stoves and refrigerators and electricity and cars, and they've lost their magic. And the only magic in their lives is through playing games like sort of Dungeons and Dragons, and so it all seems like a fairy tale and not real. And these two young elf boys, their father has passed away. One boy never knew him, and as a gift, on the youngest boy's 16th birthday, the mother brings them this staff that the father had that was the magic staff, and with a magic incarnation that will bring him back for 24 hours. Unfortunately, it kind of misfires, and all that manifests is his waist down, his legs and his feet. And they spend the rest of the movie trying to get him back fully incarnated. And it's Pixar. It's funny. It
sounds awesome. I can't wait to watch it.
Now, I'm going to just say that it may have had a bigger impact on me because I was right in the middle of a 3-day cleanse.
You were vulnerable.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Which I figured was a good thing to do during internment.
There we go.
So I thought, well, I'm just going to take this opportunity to do a 3-day cleanse. And then, this Onward miraculously showed up, which is a good way to look at a cleanse.
Onward, yeah. That was fun. And I love Pixar movies because when they're at their best, and they usually are at their best, I enjoy the movie, but I also enjoy the character development and the subtleties of the script and all those things that movie geeks like. I love it because they're one of the few outfits who makes animated films that include all those things that movie geeks would enjoy. So I recommend it highly. We sat and watched the other night, and we laughed heartily. And yes, there was a tear shed or two because it is a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you're looking for something to watch while you're inside and kind of grounded, I highly recommend it.
There we go. Or The Wizard of Oz if you're old school. There you go.
But we have some great ideas and suggestions for the things you can do at home, to get ready to ride again, and fun games you can play with your dog. So let's go. I noticed on Facebook that recently that a dressage trainer had done a very short clip of an exercise where you stand against a wall and put yourself in a position, with your knees bent like you're in the saddle. And then you hold it there for a couple of seconds, and then you stand up, and then you sit, And I thought, well, that's a really cool idea, because riding, muscles, you really only use them when you ride.
That's
Except
true.
maybe.
That is an excellent point, because, that's an excellent point. Because everybody keeps saying, what do you do when you're not in the saddle? And, not just now, but like in the past, I've had people say that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such a hard thing to emulate.
Well, one thing that came to my mind, those big, sometimes they're oil drums, sometimes they're just big plastic blue, I don't want to say canisters, but they're kind of like a drum that maybe water came in, or they're a storage, but they're round, like a big can. And you can sit on that like you're sitting on a horse.
Oh, yeah, the big plastic barrels that you can get on Craigslist. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Because, so many people, when they get on, or their hips are tight, and they need to actually get on to be able to, like,
stretch it out.
But one other thing too is I've been, it's going to sound weird, but there's these things called Franklin therapy balls, and and you can get them off of eBay, and they're not as big of a softball, but bigger than a tennis ball. And I have my riders sit on them in the saddle, and it helps like kind of break up fascia, but move your hips around. But that's also something that you could do if you have, and they're great to use while you're in the saddle. But that's also another thing to kind of like help loosen you up, in your back and your hips. If you're generally tight and not getting in the saddle, is not going to make that better.
That's true. I got one of those little balance boards that they make. It's just a little inexpensive balance board. And I've been using that a lot because I struggle with being crooked anyway. So I stand on my balance board sort of in a riding seated in a saddle position. And then I practice, okay, I'm making a virtual left turn with my horse. So I can practice staying even and not, leaning in and leaning out. So I found
that's
that
a great
handy.
idea.
Yeah, and you can buy them online, so you can get it delivered and, things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a great idea.
How about virtual lessons, Patty?
Right. Yeah, I do that actually before any of this happened. So I was already doing FaceTiming lessons. That's also a really great way. The hard thing is that I have had some people, if you're in a situation, because like the situation that I'm in, I literally can go to my house and go to the barn. So I have been fortunate enough to be able to ride. And there's very limited people that are in my barn. There's only like 2 other people. So you have to get somebody to hold the camera. But some people, because, like if you FaceTime, I don't know if you guys do this a lot. I do it all the time with my granddaughter, but you can't zoom in and out like you would on your normal video camera. So you have to either have someone kind of walk and stand in the middle or whatever. But if you can't do that, you can put it at the end of your arena. I've had one client that keeps sending me some videos, and if you get too far out, you can't really see it. But virtual lessons are such a great idea.
There you go.
So that's a great idea.
And they're different organizations having virtual shows as well as virtual lessons. So if you're one of those people that competition helps to motivate you and really gives you a reason to do what you do, look around and find something that is in your discipline, because the joy of the virtual horse show is it doesn't matter what part of the country the organization is in. You can
Exactly.
you can enter a horse show in Texas if you live in Maine, because it doesn't really matter. So poke around
Which
in those.
is really kind of cool.
Yeah, we've been talking about a lot of them on the Horses in the Morning show because they come across our Facebook feeds and stuff. So poke around, see if you can't find one of those. I love the idea of the barrel and the ball. Again, the big exercise ball is a great way to help do that. And if you're sitting and watching horse movies, all the better. Or you can live stream some show jumping because all that stuff's available to stream on your computer nowadays. You can plop your exercise ball in front of your computer screen and jump around along with the video. You could be Beezy Madden.
There you go.
Another thing you can do is, this is particularly helpful with a double bridle, but since it's an art to use a double bridle. So if you want to get better at it, hang it on a hook and let the reins drop, and then pick up the reins and move your fingers and see how it affects the bit or each bit. I really learned a lot about the double bridle by not actually riding it with it. In other words, seeing its reaction. If I do this, this is what the bit does.
That's such a great idea. That is such a great idea. I like it.
There we go. Things to do. How about our furry canine friends?
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying, don't try this at home, unless you live outside. Have a space where you're not living with a lot of people. But I've been teaching my dogs to sing.
Really?
Yeah,
I feel like this is going to backfire at some point. As earlier, whether you could hear it or not, all of my dogs were singing. So and that would be including the Aussies. So okay, so how are you doing it?
So I start howling. So I call it the Sing Fest, and we generally like to do it at kind of like dusk, twilight, setting sun. And we go outside and I just start howling, and then they start howling, and then we're all howling together.
I just feel like this needs to be recorded. Like, I would love to FaceTime.
There we go. I think Tigger should set up her camera in the corner of her kitchen so we can watch this happen.
Great idea.
No, this is outside. This is outside. Yeah. 8 dogs outside singing.
Okay. Set your phone up on a stand on the picnic table.
Oh, that's just
And I'm
adorable.
so happy I don't live next door to Tigger right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That you would not want to be doing this if you live in an apartment or a condo.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But there are some really fun games you can play with your dog inside. And one of them I learned is the cups game. And this is really a scent game. So you take 3 identical cups and you turn them upside down on a flat surface on the floor, and you put a treat under one, and then you sort of move them around, and then you let the dog figure out which one has the treat. And in the beginning, you're just happy when they knock all the, sometimes they don't get it and they just knock them all over and get the treat. But when you want to increase the challenge, you're going to actually encourage them to nose the one, extend their nose to the one that has the treat, and then they get treated from your hand. So you got the reward. You got it. And the other one is hide and seek. So hide and seek means that I will put one of the dog gates up in a room and keep the dogs restrained behind it while I go and hide. And I'll call them. And, maybe I'll be behind a door. Maybe I'll be in the shower. And they just think this is the most fun of all, is finding me.
Oh, yeah.
But you can
I bet
also
that is.
do that with their favorite toy. But at least with Aussies, you have to tell them, okay, we're going to play hide and seek.
Oh, that's so funny.
So,
but I can imagine 8 dogs looking for one person.
Well, I break it up into groups.
Okay.
Yeah, because getting found by 8 dogs all at one time could be hazardous.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, watching my 18-year-old son run from my 2 Aussies, and when they find him, it's hysterical because they, because he'll like throw a ball and then run and then go on the other side of the house or whatever, and they're just like running around. So they're singing, looking for him. It's pretty funny. So I can only imagine what that would be.
You should try the cups game with your Aussies.
That would be fun. Yeah, that would be fun.
Totally need to try that with the pony.
Yeah.
And we have to video it because it's going to be funny.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yep. Scooter is going to play the cups game.
It would be really interesting to see the difference between a horse and a dog with the same game.
It would be interesting to see the difference with different horses because now you said that I'm going to try it with Nigel too because I think what we see is going to be very different between Scooter the pony and Nigel the horse.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
So if you've got some fun games you've been playing with your dog, let us know at healthycrittersradio.com.
Dun, da, da.
Hattie.
I'm the very face of unrepentance, people.
So what did you do?
I didn't do anything. See, right away, you're starting with an accusing tone, an accusing query. Let's begin
because
with
I've
the
lived
first.
with you in the winter.
Okay, and that's all judgy and rude. Just because I taught your dog to open the dog food container and bring me snacks doesn't mean that I did something wrong. I am smart and made use of a tool. While my human was doing night check and was not available for consultation, the other human had made an error and left the room open with the cat food in it. Now, the cat food is technically stored in a sealed container, but my brother, low-key, despite being a low rider, is taller than me, and he is very strong, and so he knocked it over, and then the two of us used our paws to open it up. We wrested the lid from the container. Yes, we did.
Oh, my God.
And then we had ourselves a food-a-palooza.
Oh.
I mean, I know it's only the 7th, and I can always hope things will improve, but so far it's been pretty slow and tedious, so I'm pretty happy about last night. Now, Tigger is going to be all negative and point out I got sick to my stomach, which I did, but it was so worth it, and I am entirely unrepentant.
Was it get sick by vomiting or by diarrhea?
It was completely diarrhea everywhere.
Oh,
that's great.
That was after hours of panting and needing an enormous amount of water and farting.
Oh.
Don't you know there's a toilet paper shortage? Come on.
Did I mention that my human servant has had a migraine for over a week and that she really, really would like to sleep through the night just once? And then, just as I was settling down, say around 2:30, my brother low-key started to get really sick too. Now they've put the cat food container up on its desk, but there's a chair next to the desk, and I could jump on the chair and then jump on the desk. I've got a plan here. If they ever leave that door open again, I am on it in a minute.
Do you not mind that you got sick?
Nope, not even a little bit.
If Hedwig were a human, Hedwig would not be washing her hands. She would not be distancing herself. She would not be wearing a mask.
Oh, no, I would.
Because she just doesn't care.
Myself. I just don't like any of you that much, so there would be no need to be near anyone but my sister.
Reason number 940 not to have a small dog.
Oh, Tigger, just because your dogs are biddable. Ridiculous. Besides, what's the challenge in having a dog who just does what you want? It's embarrassing.
It's huge.
So the list of games to play with your dog at home is very different with Hedwig's servant. So we will leave it at that. And thank you very much for giving us a little bit of your precious time this evening, Hedwig. And do take care. And please post pictures of you in your mask. We want to see them.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Check out my Facebook page for today's unrepented look.
Okay.
There we go.
So we have decided that we are going to do Petapedia or Peapedia or just Petapedia this time. And actually, it's not so much about information that I know a lot about. It's more of a syndrome that I had ended up dealing with. I have.
What is the syndrome?
Well, it's called head shaking syndrome or head flicking syndrome. And it is, I'll tell you, it's just been a very interesting experience. We have this really very sweet gelding that was imported back in December 2018. And I arrived here in Weatherford, Texas in June of 2019. And this is a very, very well-trained, actually was a very famous horse. And he had gotten here and was doing his job, everything he was supposed to do. And then just literally one day, just the quickest onset, started sneezing. Just sneezing and rubbing his nose and sneezing. And we were like, oh boy, this has got to be allergies. You know, Texas is, it's spring in Texas. And this actually was in July. And so of course, immediately we thought, well, this has got to be allergies. So we pulled, our vet had just pulling blood, which we did. And it showed all of these markers for different things that when you pull blood for allergy testing, it's not necessarily that they're allergic to these things. It's what they have been exposed to at the time that they do the blood. And so, long story short, we ended up going the route of the allergies. We did serum, nothing seemed to get better. And we got to the point where it had gotten so bad. And if anybody's ever dealt with this, Tigger, have you ever dealt with a horse with shaking syndrome or head flicking?
Yes.
It's kind of, depending on how this happens. And like I said, I am by no means an expert in this. It's just, our circumstance has just been such a quick onset and pretty severe. But, you try to so desperately try to help the horse and, all the different things that he was doing, but sneeze. And I've told, a lot of times when you think it's allergy related, makes sense because you're thinking a quick onset. So we did also got the netting for their nose. I forgot what they're called. Those little things that you can put on the front of the bottom. Nosegay. And that just seemed to make him worse. And so I started to suspect that possibly that maybe this was a little bit of head shaking as well, because he just wasn't getting any better with the allergy shots. So long and short of it is that, through a very long process, we did end up diagnosing that it is definitely, as they call it, head flicking or head shaking, as they call it here. And there's not that much known. The wonderful thing about our circumstance with our horse was that he actually was the most relaxed and happiest when I was riding him. But tacking him up was quite a chore, because he would be sneezing and moving his head. And, I literally had to put a helmet on to do this. And the only reason I continued to do it is because when I would ride him, he was quiet and he was just most relaxed. And then we would take everything off and he would just go back to rubbing his nose. And for him, there's different, again, this is also, vets just don't know a lot about this, and there's not a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people that have some success with it, but they say that there's photosensitivity to this. He did not have that, so we were fortunate that way. So him being out was good, helped him a lot. But anyway, we ended up we brought him. We did a head X-ray. We were told that you could inject the trigeminal nerve, like all of these different things. And at this point, people are still guessing. These are, vets that are guessing it could be this or it could be that. So long story, kind of wrapped around to lots of investigation. We x-rayed his head. We then brought him to A&M and we did a skin testing. So certain things that are like good things to know is that if you have a horse that's, this is according to A&M, if you have a horse that's actually having an allergic reaction to something, they're most likely not just going to itch and sneeze at their nose. There'll be another area that they're itching. I didn't know that. He was very specifically not that. And when they did the testing, they do a little subdermal serum, and it's like 50 spots. And these generally, if a horse is having allergy issue, will like kind of light up pretty quickly. He did not. So lo and behold, I heard of a friend in the area that had literally the same sort of issue. And she directed me to a website called Calm and Healthy Horses. And again, I want to preface that I am in no way an expert. I am not saying that this is the right website to go, but it does tend to lean towards a little bit more explanation of some of why the horses do this. And again, it's still so beyond my understanding, but she had literally was able to, her horse had become violent and couldn't be ridden. And when she followed some of the protocol with this, it really helped her. And what my hope is to kind of, if there are people out there that have this issue with their horses, it can be really scary. And, the number one thing that this website talks about is, your horses go from sometimes being very dull and lethargic to far too impulsive. You feel like all of a sudden your horse is being deliberately naughty. Well, they're not being deliberately naughty. They're having a lot of, discomfort. And, if it's not what your horse was before, and they go from this particular horse was very, very quiet to excessively spooking, and then the next day again being dull, this may be a website for you to look at. But apparently, head flicking, as they call it, in New Zealand and the UK, which is apparently very prevalent there, they have a whole bunch of different suggestions. And again, these are what we did for our horse that seemed to help. We're still far from the end of it, but they suggest that you try to get your horses on a low potassium, kind of lower carb type of food, wet their hay. They talk about increasing their electrolytes. I do salt, so that seems to have helped. But all of these different things lead to this one big thing, which is it is a lot of new grass, so spring grass. So this time of year, and head shaking or head flicking can be very seasonal. And that's apparently which is sort of the case with our horse. But they talk about dry lotting him, which was a whole different aspect to me. And I don't know, Tigger, with the ones that you've dealt with, have you ever heard of this?
Yes.
Putting them into dry lot? Not.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have success that way?
2 yes, 1 no.
Okay. Yeah. So it's very interesting because it talks about, the sugars obviously in the grass and the potassium and all these different things. And they do, what I like about this website is they do talk about, being able to reintroduce them back to grasses. And again, they have a little quiz that you can do, and it's called "Is Your Horse Grass Effective?" And they just talk about different things like, does
cut
he,
there,
he,
Patty?
Does he get
Cut there.
You're cutting out.
You're cutting out. Can you go back to quiz? They have a quiz that you can take.
Okay.
You disappeared there. Okay. Three.
Okay. Uh-huh.
3, 2, 1.
And it's called the Grass Effective. So it's like a checklist that you can go through, and which really helped me, because my biggest thing with our guy was he was never really overly forward, but he would go from being sort of dull and then totally overreactive. And so this was a good thing. So from that grass affected checklist, we were able to start to introduce some of these different things, i.e. wet hay. So what we did was we took him off all grain, and he's just on hay, which has really helped. He's on magnesium. And again, you need to go to these websites and, of course, talk with your own vet, because it's not just magnesium. You don't just start plowing magnesium to your horse. It's a certain type of magnesium that you do. But the biggest thing for me was being able to take him off of the grass, and he's definitely getting better. But there are a lot of people out there that are having this problem, and mistakenly and understandably so feel like this is a behavioral problem, and when really in reality, a lot of times these horses are having, sort of like a migraine type feeling. Like if you're out, like the ones that are reactive to the sun, truly it's just like, if I don't know if anybody's ever had a migraine, but apparently it's not a good thing to be in the bright light. And so they can go through that. And they're just, the great news is that I feel like this is a great tool that can lead to other things as long as you go with your vet and you talk about diet, and you really can get some support with this, because it really made a major difference for our guy, who was totally miserable. And I don't know, if anybody out there ever deals with this, but I'll tell you, it is a hard thing to sit there and watch your horse knowing that he was one way one day and within 24 hours changed. So it's kind of a long path, but there's a lot of great information out there, and some good things that you can do checklist wise, but some really simple things that you can really make a major difference and hopefully get to the other side of it.
Interesting stuff. So apparently what can look like an allergy to just plain old you and I can be something much more complicated. So great information.
Absolutely.
Make sure you send me an email with a link to that website so I can put it in the show notes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, actually. Tigger, did you end up dealing with the head shaking thing with diet?
Yep.
And so you said 2 it helped and 1 it didn't?
Well, 1, the dry lot didn't help.
Yeah.
But when we got him a one of those racehorse kind of masks with it had like covers for his eyes that were plastic, but it
blinkers.
Knocked the light out.
Blinkers, yes.
Yeah, blinkers. Okay.
But it was all glass or plastic.
Yeah, they make them plastic. It's almost like they're wearing sunglasses. Yeah.
Yeah, and that helped that horse a lot.
So was that one
really
obviously
light sensitive?
Okay, light sensitive. Yeah. Okay.
And so he benefited from that. Like she rode him in it, and then he was only turned out at night.
Interesting.
And locked in his stall during the day.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because the cool thing about this website, it talks about, where people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lock my horse up. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Your horse is going to try to react by, what he thinks is the right thing to do by nature, but you got to help him out here, Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, cool.
And now we're at Critter Nutrition, and since humans are critters, I thought I'd share some smoothie recipes from my very good friend Anastasia in the UK. And she has a website called kindearth.net. She's a very good foodie. And one of her smoothies is called the Immune Boosting Smoothie with Turmeric and Ginger. So you might want to get a pen out, write the recipe down, or just go to her website and look it up after you listen to the podcast. But what I really like about this is her recipes are so easy. So you don't have to be a chef to do them. So the ingredients for the immune smoothie are 1 ripe banana, 2 teaspoons of powdered turmeric, 1 inch of cubed fresh ginger. If you don't have fresh ginger powder, 2 tablespoons of hulled hemp seeds, 2 tablespoons of cashew nuts, 200 milliliters of filtered water, 100 grams of frozen mango, and 100 grams of frozen pineapple. Now, of course, you can substitute fresh pineapple and fresh mango. And all you're going to do is get your blender out, and you're going to blend the banana, the ginger, the turmeric, the water, the hemp seeds, and the cashews for 30 seconds. Then you add the ginger and the frozen fruit, and you blend it until smooth. That's it.
That's it. I like that kind of recipe.
That's pretty. Yeah.
And I turmeric and ginger are such super antioxidants, and so good for you. And it's sometimes hard to, if you've ever tasted fresh ginger, or if you've ever tasted turmeric powder just by itself, it's well, let's just say it's a wake-up call. Hello.
It's going to be zippy.
I think the word nasty.
Yeah.
Not nasty. Yeah.
But in a smoothie like this, you really reduce the nastiness. So that's one of my favorite smoothies of hers. And the other one, which is another really, really easy one, is with moringa. Now, moringa is very well known in Africa. It's fed to horses. It's fed to dogs. It's sort of a leafy, it's a tree, actually. It's got 46 antioxidants. It's an energy booster. It's been shown to slow down the aging process. It helps combat stress. It supports bone support. It is good for your skin. And adding moringa is like adding another adaptogen. It's like adding maca or ginseng. So this is a moringa leaf powder smoothie. And you can find moringa leaf powder on Amazon, at health food stores. It's widely available. So the ingredients are 1 tablespoon of moringa leaf powder, 2 milliliters of water filtered, two ripe bananas, 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds, 1 centimeter of cubed fresh ginger, and 1 large handful of baby spinach leaves, again, to give you a more chlorophyll and the super greens. 100 grams of frozen pineapple, which is about a half a cup, and 100 grams of frozen mango, which is about 2/3 of a cup. So guess what you're going to do, Patty?
What?
You're going to blend the moringa leaf powder, the banana, the hemp seeds, the ginger in the water until smooth. And then you're going to add the baby spinach. And then you're going to add the frozen mango and pineapple. And that's it.
So
that sounds delicious.
Do you blend it after you add those last ingredients?
First you blend the moringa, the banana, then you blend the baby spinach. And lastly, you add the frozen mango and pineapple and to the blender and blend until creamy.
Gotcha. So they have different blending rates. Got it.
Yes. Yeah. Now, when I use Anastasia's recipes, I've made the mistake of I look at the ingredients, I just throw them all in and turn on the blender.
Yeah. That's what I would be doing.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I have discovered that she is correct.
Okay.
It does.
So what happens?
It clumps.
Oh. Okay.
So adding them in small groups reduces the clumping.
Because you don't want a clumpy smoothie, because then it's not a smoothie, it's a clumpy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a chunky smooth.
Yeah. There you go. Chunky peanut butter, good. Okay. Chunky smoothie, no.
I'm
No,
gonna share my feel good juice recipe. I call it zippity doo dah. You do need a juicer. So if you don't have a juicer, ask the Easter Bunny to bring you one.
Yeah.
Juicers are a great investment if you like really fresh juices. I don't know what to tell you if you don't have a juicer, but if you do have a juicer, this juice is for you. And it starts with a base of beets. And, right now you can get beets in most grocery stores, particularly Whole Foods, places like that. In a few months, beets will be in season here on the East Coast. I grow beets. You can get them in farmers markets, probably June or July. Anyway, you take 2 or 3 beets and you juice it. So you get this nice, beautiful red based juice. And then I add a whole apple, sometimes some celery juice, and a little ginger, and carrots. And again, with a juicer, you just, you're removing the pulp and you're just getting the juice. And it's the kind of juice that I call vibrant. So when you sip it and drink it, it's like your whole body just goes, yay!
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's so good for you. Beets are good for the heart, good for the blood. The apples have quercetin, which are antioxidants. Carrots have beta carotene, and it's easy to make. I mean, it's just basically 3 or 4 ingredients. You could add ginger if you want the extra antioxidant kick. So for those of you with juicers or considering getting one, this is an easy drink to start with, and it's delicious. I want to say at the end of this section, I wrote an article in the Biostar newsletter this week called Silver Linings. And one of the things that I discovered in looking up optimism and laughter is there was a study published in the American Journal of Epidemiology, which analyzed data from 2004 to 2012 from 70,000 women enrolled in the Nurses' Health Study. According to the study, the most optimistic women had a 16% lower risk of dying from cancer, a 38% lower risk of dying from heart disease, a 39% lower risk of dying from stroke, a 38% lower risk of dying from respiratory disease, and a 52% lower risk of dying from infection.
Wow. That's
Wow.
significant.
So reading that made me start thinking about the horse community. And I want to read you my sort of thoughts about optimism and the horse community and what we're facing with COVID-19. The horse and dog communities are one of the brightest silver linings in our lives. Our love of sport, training, and caretaking with our beloved horses and dogs transcend this virus. COVID-19 cannot take away our connection and devotion to our animals. That each of us are joined to one another because of hooves and paws is a source of immense blessings. We are a community that packs carrot pieces, apple slices, sugar cubes, and dog treats in our pockets. We speak the language of impulsion, strides, meters, and top line. We utter words such as down, stay, come, leave it, as easily as we say hi and hello. We are the tribe of whinnies and barks, falling off and getting on again, icing legs and cleaning up, even studying closely animal messes most people consider gross. We are tough, intuitive, and know the power of positivity. We know how to handle turbulence and understand that we must keep going. We are a community of hopes and dreams, luck and lessons taught to us by animals. We are a community of silver linings.
Everybody out there in the listenership, if you can figure out how to make a silver lining smoothie, we want to hear about it. And we want to hear about it by you writing it on the outside of an envelope from a credit card offer you got in the mail, and address it to Biostar US, attention Tigger. And the address is
1 Cleveland Street, Suite 800, Gordonsville, Virginia, 22942, but we will not be opening it for at least 2 or 3 days.
There we go. Has to sit in the sunshine and sterilize. That's right.
Yes, exactly.
That's right. All mail must sit in the sunshine. So now it is time for Coffee Klatch. Dun, dun, dun.
I know.
Done.
So now we're at Coffee Klatch, and I thought it would be fun to share our favorite songs or playlists that we're listening to in the days of the coronavirus. I think music is a very powerful therapy, and I rely on it a lot. And what I really love about it is, as much as I like to watch, video, and I like visual stimulation, the great thing about music, it takes you into your imagination. And I think stimulating imagination is important for creativity and focus, and, even to some degree, a level of meditation and ease and peace. So do you all have your playlists?
Yeah, I do have a list, and it's extensive. Whenever things are particularly stressful, I have a tendency to go to great American musicals. I have some faves. Right at the top of the list.
Can I guess?
Go for it. See if you can guess.
Something from South Pacific.
South Pacific is in the top 10.
Oh,
well done, Tigger.
Thanks. Something from Mano La Mancha.
Not on the list.
Woo. Something from West Side Story.
Not on the list.
Oklahoma.
Wow.
Ding, 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 ding. Number 3 is Oklahoma.
Sound of Music.
Number 1. Ding, 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 ding.
Okay, well, and as it should be, right, Tigger?
As it
Right.
should be.
Something from Camelot.
No, but maybe it should be.
Something from Annie Get Your Gun. Something from Rent.
Nope. Old. I'm an old soul.
Okay, so Funny Girl.
Nope. Older.
Oh, wow.
Gene Kelly.
Oh my gosh, Singing in the Rain.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, wow.
I'm an old soul. And there's only
What else?
I love that.
There's one left that's in my top 4, and that's The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've watched the movies. I've unfortunately never been able to see any of them on Broadway, but I've watched the movies a bazillion times. And all of them, for me, the storylines are so very hopeful. And I think that's why I turn to those, because I have the whole soundtracks. I get the movie soundtracks. And that's, I think, the reason I go to them whenever life is very stressful, because they bring back that hopeful thing. Yeah. How about you, Wiggy Tiggy?
Well,
Yeah.
I tend to go more for the rock.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not peg you for a headbanger, Tigger.
Yeah, well, I have a blend. So it starts with Limitless by Bon Jovi.
Of course.
because it's got a really good beat that you can dance to with your headphones on in your office. And it's got an important message about being without limits, especially in a time when we are, filled with limits.
Yeah, life's about limits right now, man.
Shelter from the Storm by Bob Dylan.
Well, that's ironic.
This one, Patty, you're going to definitely relate to. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll by AC/DC.
Yeah.
Dirty Laundry by Don Henley.
I love that.
Heard It Through the Grapevine by Creedence Clearwater, their version.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
Always.
Everybody Knows by Leonard Cohen.
Mm. Oh, wow, yeah.
Running with the Night by Lionel Richie.
You're all over the place.
Yeah, I am. I like diversity. And then for my more somber, quiet, thoughtful moments, The Prayer by Josh Groban and Charlotte Church.
Mine is like I'm all over the place. Like I am all over the place when I listen to music, and I don't get the opportunity to listen to music as much as I'd like to, like when I ride. But when I come home, Ray and I listen to stuff. But like I am all over the place. One of my this is gonna sound silly, but I really love some of the older rock. The stuff that you've mentioned, Tigger, is good. But I love Pink. I just love Pink.
Well, she's not old.
Anyway, Pink is not
No,
old.
I know, but no, but I said I love rock, but I'm saying that I'm all over the place. I mean, talk about a blend. I love the Sound of Music stuff because obviously Tigger did a incredible freestyle for me years ago, and she said you have to watch the movie to understand. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate musicals. Well, I love that.
Now, mind you, she was a full adult and had never seen The Sound of Music. I just want you all listeners to realize.
I don't like musicals. They're kind of like, I know it's horrible, but I just don't, it just isn't kind of my thing. Like when you're saying West Side Story, I've never watched it. So I'm not going to admit to that, but I mean, I'm sort of like I'm a little bit all over the place. I like Prince, Jet, the Chainsmokers, Imagine Dragons. So like I listen to a lot more current stuff, but then Ray and I like Leonard Skinner or Led Zeppelin or so I'm, again, I don't have like, I just kind of go through what I have and my playlist of stuff. And then, if it's not what I want to listen to, I skip to the next one. So I'm kind of all over.
May I make a suggestion? If you love Led Zeppelin, look up Stairway to Heaven by Heart.
Yeah.
That she did
really?
at the Kennedy Awards Center.
Oh, I did see that. Oh my gosh.
God. And it's available on iTunes. So you can you can't watch it, but you can listen to it. And her version of Stairway to Heaven is
it was amazing.
Incredible.
I did see that. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So don't forget music while you're staying in your house or your condo or your apartment or feeling like you need a boost. Music is one of the best things you could do for your well-being and laughter and feeling good, because really, in my opinion, the bottom line of getting through this and getting to the other side of it is getting through it with optimism and courage, and not allowing ourselves to get sucked into this is how many have died. I mean, it's important to be aware of it. It's important not to deny it. And yet it's also important to be a survivor And it's important for our animals that we do everything possible to keep our vibration, our spiritual vibration, our physical vibrations high, and not, not depressed and anxious. And I just want to say that a friend of mine called me this weekend, and she's all freaked out about not having a mask. So I'm listening to her freaking out about not having a mask, and she couldn't find, like a kerchief to wear over her face. And she's just totally having her own little mini meltdown. And I just wasn't going to get sucked into it. I just, I listened, and I was, very neutral. And finally she said, well, you're not upset about it? I said, no. And then she just hung up. So what happens is sometimes when we get really anxious and afraid, we kind of want to gravitate to the tribe of other anxious and afraid people. And that's just humanness.
Yeah.
I would encourage everybody, when you feel the fear and anxiety, feel it and let it go. Try not to let it dominate you. And as a perfect example, I don't have a mask either. And I had to go to Whole Foods this morning early because they let in people over 60 early. And I didn't have a mask, but I have this great turquoise, bright blue Western kerchief. A neck kerchief. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'll just pull it up, tie it behind my head. I look like a bandito, right? So I tie it up in the car. I put my gloves on, get out of the car, walk to the entrance of Whole Foods. And there's a Whole Foods guy standing there, and he's cleaning the carts. And he looks at me and he goes, would you like a large cart or a small cart? I said, I'd like a small cart. So he pushes the small cart over to me, and he's cleaning it all up, and he looks at me and he goes, you look like a character out of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Awesome.
And I said, you know what? That's exactly what I was going for. And we had a big laugh. So, I'm not going to say have fun with the virus, but look beyond what you don't have and either create something that will do, or to get yourself out of the I'm afraid, I don't have this, I can't ride, da, 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 da. Think of all the things that you do have, like your health and friends that you can call and friends on Facebook and toilet paper, hopefully, and your animals. And it's spring, and it's in so many parts of the U.S. Spring is just an extravaganza of color and smells and butterflies and bumblebees. And there's so much to be grateful for. Don't forget to be grateful.